Greetings. This is Justin Allen with the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, a podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system, and frankly, screw that. Sick of it, and it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take the measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked with the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help the nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode.
Hello, everyone. Today we'll be talking to Alex, who is a registered nurse who is currently in nurse practitioner school with a focus on acute care. She's planning on graduating in August of 2026 and is wanting to jump right into entrepreneurship as a nurse practitioner. She has started an IV infusion clinic as a registered nurse, but decided to go back to school as a nurse practitioner so she didn't need to pay for a medical director. She's needing help with what services she can offer in her clinic, how to prepare utilizing her nurse practitioner degree after graduating, what nurse practitioner specialty to focus on, and some general business structure guidance. Hey, Alex, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Justin?
Hey, doing good. Thanks for hopping on here on a random Sunday morning afternoon. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. So just introduce ourselves. I know you're a registered nurse, so just kind of tell us a little bit about your experience and, what you're kind of doing now in terms of being a registered nurse and, what kind of made you want to go back to NP school.
Yeah, so I have been a nurse, an RN for almost 12 years. Some of the specialties I focused on during my career are ICU, ER. I've done nursing leadership for many years. One of my favorite jobs and what kind of led me down this course of healthcare was I lived in Las Vegas for a few years and I was a hangover IV nurse on the Strip, which was one of the most fun jobs I've ever had as a nurse, working for tips. Who would have thought? But that's what initially made me fall in love with vitamins, infusions, just a different approach to treating a lot of these symptoms with our patients versus, the traditional Western medicine. And so I relocated back to the state I currently live in, and I ended up starting my own IV company. However, as an RN, I still have to have the medical director, even though I can own it. And this past summer, I had to renew my annual contract, pay my medical director again. And I just thought, I was on maternity leave. I was home, stuck with my brand new baby in the house. And I was like, this is dumb. I have the time. I'm just going to go back to school and I'm going to do it myself. So I went back to school. My background in ICU is what led me to choosing acute care NP, which is something I'm still trying to decide, if that's the right course. But there we are. And then once I've decided to go back to NP school, I was looking for different materials. I found your podcast about a month ago. I have been binge listening to so many different podcasts, and that really has what helped me change directions. So instead of doing or focusing on IV infusions, which I now know has a large overhead, a lot more work goes into it, I really want to focus on weight loss, HRT, possibly looking into medical cannabis, just several different options.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, good for you. How old are you? I'm just curious.
35.
35 years old. Okay, so that's a pretty good age. I've said this multiple times in other episodes. Mid 30s tends to be a real solid age to, focus on building a business because you still kind of have that energy, that youthful energy, that ambition and stuff. So, so good for you for jumping into this right now. It just gets harder as you get older. So, Yeah. So anyways, though, so you started this IV infusion clinic. You started this when?
I started this just last year.
Just last year. How's it doing?
So it's been doing really well. It's really just right now a side hustle. With my current job, I work full time plus in a hospital. I usually do about 4 to 5 12-hour shifts a week, with a brand new baby at home with my husband, and I'm in NP school full time.
Jesus. My
Can you tell
Lord.
I'm motivated?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, my Lord, how do you I mean, when do you sleep? My goodness. Um,
Coffee really works very well.
yeah, you probably need to get a script for some Adderall too. My goodness. Yeah. All right. Okay, good deal. Well, yeah, you're obviously motivated. That's for sure. No question about that. So yeah, so good for you. So, my first piece of advice for you is really try to keep that spark alive because you're going to need that, over the next 5 to 6 years if you really want to scale and grow, a real business, a business that actually works for you. It's going to take quite a bit of energy and effort and focus on your part to do that. So try to keep that alive. Do not let distractions steal that energy from you. What you'll find in the next 3 to 4 years probably is, you have a child, obviously. So, I mean, that should be your number one priority, regardless of anything. But, they'll steal energy and time from you. Um, Various jobs will steal energy and time from you. So, my piece of advice for you is to and focus your energies on those things that empower you, that give you energy and not steal energy from you. So if you graduate NP school and you get a job and it's just sucking the life from you, find another job. So just kind of keep it in the back of your head, okay? If you find yourself involved in an energy sink, an energy vampire situation, so to speak, get out of it because they could really be detrimental to your success. So just, be aware of that, okay? Um,
100% agree.
yeah. I've dealt with that multiple times throughout my life, just like, geez, like this is such a damn time sink. It's just this thing's sapping my energy from me. I gotta stop doing this. This is a waste of my time. You know what I mean? So just be aware of that. Another way to phrase that or to look at it is what I'm doing an income generating activity? Like, is what I'm doing actually going to propel my business for growth or bring my career to the next level or really improve my overall life? If it's not, it's a waste of your time. So
Exactly.
yeah. So going to NP school obviously answers yes to all those questions. So, definitely do that. Um, okay, so let's go ahead and first start with I think the foundation here is what you're going to school for. So you
Mhm.
graduate in about a year and a half, and what focus are you on right now? Acute care?
Yeah, I chose acute care based on my background. I live in Utah. The laws just recently changed, so it is an independent practice state. I did call the Board of Nursing to double check and see, and they did tell me that an APRN is an APRN. But in your experience, am I headed in the right direction?
No. The acute care certification, it really limits your scope. I mean, you are acute care certified. There's nothing acute about weight loss unless someone is carrying 30 pounds of fluid and you got to give them some Lasix, right? Um, so my recommendation to you is to switch to FNP.
Okay.
Yeah. The FNP is very broad and really allows you to do just about anything. You know, most hospital systems, you can work as an FNP, in the ER or whatever. You can even be an FNP and be a hospitalist. The FNP, you can do any kind of, anything you want outpatient. So my recommendation is to stick with the family certification. That acute care is really going to limit you. And a big thing to consider there is malpractice. So if you are acute care certified and you decide to start this wellness clinic where you're offering weight loss and HRT, et cetera, and you you prescribe someone something for weight loss and, God forbid something adverse happens, how do you defend yourself when you are in a disposition and the other lawyer is basically, asking you directly, why do you think you were able to provide weight loss services when you are acute care certified? It's going to be something that's going to be very hard to defend.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And you also might have problems getting malpractice insurance too, because they're going to ask you what kind of certification you have. And if you're acute care, but yet you tell the malpractice company you're opening up a weight loss clinic, that's going to be a red flag to them too, because most of the time malpractice companies are only going to cover you for what is within your scope. And doing weight loss and hormone replacement therapy is outside the scope of an acute care nurse practitioner. It just is.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
good thing I asked you in time before my practicum starts.
Yeah. So, tomorrow, Monday, be doing whatever you got to do to switch that out to FNP. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing with the acute care, geriatric certifications and stuff. It really just kind of bottlenecks you. It really does limit your ability to do a lot of things. Um, FNP really allows you to do just about anything. Like you can even do
Okay.
psych as an FNP, really.
Okay.
Yeah. So switch that out. So that's step number one. Okay. I don't want you
Perfect.
to waste your time and your money. I've known a lot of NPs who became acute care certified and then had to go back and waste another year and a half of their life getting the FNP certification.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's just, you only got 80 years on this planet. You want to spend one of those going back to school for another fucking degree? I don't.
Not at all.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's another year you could have spent scaling your business instead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, okay, so is there anything you want to discuss in terms of your current practice goes? I know you said that you were thinking about trying to integrate some additional services into it now. Is that something you want to do now, or is that something you want to do when you get your NP?
Sort of two parts. I was hoping that you could maybe look at my website to see if I'm headed in the right direction, at least with marketing in terms of like the IV infusions, just so I have like an aesthetics idea. But then also like even with the courses that you offer, like are there courses I can or should be taking as an RN that can get me ready, or are there certain things I need to wait for until I graduate?
Okay, let's first cover the question, what courses you can take as an RN, what services you can offer as an RN. Obviously, your scope is limited as an RN, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you can do coaching. You can offer general medical advice. You can follow a protocol or a standing order from a provider and give the patient certain guidance based off of that order. So think about the autonomy you have in an ICU based off of standing orders, right? You have to call the doctor every single time you need to push a little, you know, I don't know, little Lasix on a patient or something. You just follow the order,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Right. So it's similar to an outpatient clinic. So if you have a provider, a nurse practitioner, a doc, whatever, um, they can give you some guidance and some protocols and some standing orders that you can follow as an RN. So, for example, let's say you integrate weight loss into your practice, the provider will have to do the initial evaluation on the patient. Okay. They will
Mm-hmm.
need to establish a provider patient relationship first and then issue the prescription for the weight loss drug. Okay. Same thing with hormone replacement therapy. So the provider will have to see the patient first, and then they can develop a standing order that you can utilize to follow up with the patient. So, for example, if you're doing weight loss, you as the RN follow up with the patient, 2 to 4 weeks later, and you can ask them some general questions. Are you losing weight? Are you having any side effects, etc.? Okay, you've stalled on your weight. Okay, now you can increase your dose of the semaglutide by 0.25, whatever. You just basically you can follow a standing order, a protocol to tell a patient kind of what to do. Um, you can, take a look at some blood work and tell the patient, let's say you're doing hormone replacement therapy, for example, and, let's say they're on testosterone replacement therapy or something. And let's say their hemoglobin hematocrit go up while they're on the testosterone, and you have a standing order that says if the patient's hematocrit gets above 54%, instruct the patient to go donate blood. So you could do stuff like that, but you would not be able to like refill their medications. You would not be able to prescribe new medications. You wouldn't be able to diagnose them. Like you have to stay within the RN scope. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can do that. And what that essentially does is it takes the workload off of the provider, I mean, anyone listening to this that wants to offload some of the work, you can hire an RN and have them follow standing orders to do certain things. So you as the RN would do those things and you would just need a provider to basically back you up on it. So you could do that. Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, really, in theory, you could really do just about anything, within reason, any other service that you want. Um, like I said, within reason. You just can't diagnose, you can't prescribe stuff, right? So you always have
Yeah.
to have that provider kind of in your pocket that also, contributes to. So they would need to do the actual true follow-ups for the prescription refills and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So would it be worthwhile for you to do that now? I mean, it depends. Is there demand?
There is the city and area that I live in, and that's kind of one of the other things. There's a lot of demand. There are a lot of clinics around this specific area. The area I'm looking at is about an hour 15 minutes away from here. Somewhere that I would be willing to relocate to. And when I have searched it, I can only find one other HRT clinic within three large and about four semi-large cities around that area.
So your goal would be is to get in somewhere where there isn't the competition and kind of open up a location there. Like that's kind of your goal.
Yeah, because that is one thing I've taken away from other podcasts I've listened to of yours is it seems like the people who really are successful, who have lower cost of marketing, the ones who are just making more a month are the ones who tend to have chosen those rural or more less populated areas and been like the one and only for their patients.
You are 100% correct in that assumption. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. It is definitely worth the drive to go somewhere an hour, outside of town to open up a practice. I actually was consulting with a nurse practitioner 2 days ago, and that's kind of the decision that we made. She was in a very saturated area, and we came to the decision that it would be worth her time to drive an hour west to a town of 30,000 people where there was zero competition. Like,
Mhm.
that's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah,
Why
right.
would you open up somewhere that has a dozen competitors when you can drive an hour and be the only show in town? So,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's a smart idea. So if there is demand in that area for HRT and weight loss and IV infusion and that kind of a thing, then in my opinion, it would be worthwhile then to, use the provider that you have or the medical director that you have and have a discussion with them and say, this is what I want to do. Are you okay with this? And you can even also tell them, I will develop the standing orders and the protocols. All I need for you to do is to edit them to whatever you're comfortable with and give me the go ahead and sign them. But at the end of the day, that medical director, that provider is going to also have to be okay with seeing the patient for the initial visit and the true follow-ups for prescription refills and any future diagnoses and stuff like that. Um, let's say you do blood work on someone, initial evaluation for someone who has weight loss, and let's say their A1C is normal, and for some reason they're gaining weight or something, or something goes wrong, and then on the follow up, their A1C puts them into diabetes territory. You can't diagnose them with that. The provider would need to follow up with them and actually issue that diagnosis and treat it, right? So you're gonna have to just talk to your provider, your medical director,
Okay.
and see if
And
they're cool with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does that initial consult, does that have to be face to face or can that be
No, telemed's fine.
telemed? Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. All the falls can be telemed too, really, you know. I mean, you could be the main person that they actually see in the office. Um, but you'll need to determine what you're going to pay these providers. I mean, as a provider myself, if you were just paying me $1,000 a month to be your medical director, to just sign off on IV infusion orders and stuff, that wouldn't be enough money for me to now start exchanging my time to start seeing patients. I would need compensation for that,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and then my question to you now, I checked my state laws like you have suggested, and this Utah um, does hold no compete clauses for up to 1 year. Do you think it would be beneficial, or would I be shooting myself in the foot where I implemented this clinic, had my doctor sign the no compete clause in order to build my clients and, talk to them, tell them this is my intent. I'm planning on building it up, but then end up taking over once I graduate?
Well, I mean, you can. I guess it really comes down to, does your medical director really want to do their own thing?
They're not interested in doing their own thing. I think they're looking for just some extra side
Just some
money.
easy money, right? I mean, it's smart business, you know. I mean, you would need to have them sign a 1099 contract regardless if they're going to start seeing patients for you. And a standard 1099 contract, you should have a non-compete in it, you know.
Hmm.
If they don't really care about opening up their own thing, then they probably aren't going to really care about signing it, you know. Um, the big thing is a non-solicitation clause. You don't want them to take your patients. That's the big thing. Um, So, if they're kind of just doing their own thing and they're not interested in starting their own practice, then I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just have them sign a 1099 contract that has a non-compete, non-solicitation clause in it. You can just email us, the Elite MP at EliteMP.com. We got a pretty good little 1099 contract we just send you. You can use.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would pay this person, you know, I mean, you need to pay them to make it worth their while. So, 100 bucks for the initial evaluation and then $50 for follow-ups or something like that. I would just pay them straight production,
Okay.
make it worth their time. Um,
Right. Because really, I'm kind of looking at it like I'm not going to be the one making the money off of the clients, but if I can start establishing it, because again, referring back to your previous podcast, it can take months for people to build up their clientele. And so part of this is, thinking about just spending the time. So I'm kind of taking that time to build up my clients while I'm finishing school and can't have my own clients, if that makes sense.
no, it's a smart move. I mean, you're obviously a pretty clever girl, so I mean, that's a smart idea, but you're gonna make money. You're still gonna make money off this. I mean, think about it. Like, you charge $300 a month for weight loss. I'm just throwing some numbers out there. Say you charge $300 a month for weight loss, and you pay your provider $100 for that new patient visit, right? So they see him one time. Okay, so now that $300 goes down to $200, and then you have to pay for the meds or whatever. Okay, now your profit's probably like $100, and then every single month afterwards, you're still charging them $300 a month, and yet the provider is only following up with them every 3 months, and you're only giving them
Mm.
$50 for that follow up. That takes them a whole whopping 10 minutes, and the rest of that money is yours. You're the business owner. That's your money. So yeah, you're gonna make money.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like you're gonna make money and build that clientele. So when you become an NP yourself, you just jump right in and start seeing all those people yourself, and they're all gonna be I mean, you're gonna have a relationship with all of them anyways, so it should be a
Hmm.
pretty seamless transition.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good idea. I mean, I'm proud of you, for coming up with this idea and doing this the right way. Like, you're going to finish NP school and you're going to be light years ahead of everyone else you're graduating with. Like, you are going to have a practice that's sitting there waiting for you to just come right in, and it's going to be generating money right from the get-go, you're going to be making more money than any of your other colleagues that you graduate with, and it's going to be your business. Like, I mean, you're just going to be light years ahead of everybody else. So, well done. Good planning here. I think that this is a very good strategic move from a business perspective. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Good. I'm glad I'm on the right track.
No, you are, for sure, for sure. So I guess your biggest priority right now is to find that person who is willing to see those patients. Is your doctor, your medical director right now, do they have the time to do that?
Yes, he does.
He has the time to do that. He has the time to spend 5 to 10 hours a week seeing patients.
Yeah.
He does. Okay. If he's cool with it, then cool. If he is not, then you'll probably just, my advice to you would be, if it's going to be all telemed, you can just post an ad. You can go to Elite NP Facebook group or post that on Indeed or something. You could literally hire someone that's across the country. As long as they have a Utah license, they can just be the one that sees the patients via telemed, just to initiate the orders and stuff. And like I said, you pay them $100 for new visits, $50 for follow-ups. If you want to plop your email address into this right now, someone might be listening and say, hey, I'd be happy to do that. It sounds like easy side money. So maybe you'll get an email from someone if you want to put your email in right now.
Yeah.
All right, what's your email?
It is ALIG1221 @gmail.com.
There you go. All right. So if anyone's listening right now and you're looking for
Hit
some
me up.
easy side money and you're cool with doing this for Alex, then shoot her an email. Hell,
That would be amazing.
Yeah. They just need a Utah license. That's it. They can just be all 100% telemed. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So anyways, though, you should be able to find someone, I would first approach your medical director. You already have a relationship with them. See if they're willing to do it. If they're willing to do it, cool. Like I said, offer $100 for new visits, $50 for follow-ups, and then you're going to have to just develop those standing orders and whatever they're comfortable with. So my advice to you is, if you want to do weight loss, take our weight loss course. If you want to do some hormone replacement therapy, then take our hormone replacement therapy courses. That plus the IV infusion that you're doing, and maybe vitamin injections, I would probably just leave it at that for the time being. I wouldn't do anything else.
Okay.
Any
Perfect.
questions?
Because that was one of my questions, is which one of your courses do you suggest would be the most beneficial? So I will start with the weight loss and the hormones.
Yep. Weight loss right now is kind of one of those very gray areas. We don't really know where the future is going to take us with it. Okay. The whole GLP-1 debacle with the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies and stuff. We don't know where this is going to go in the future. Compounding pharmacies are still compounding it, but they're kind of having to add things into it to kind of get around rules and stuff. So just FYI, the whole weight loss thing might be one of those services that you're going to have to kind of pivot and change as you grow.
All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and the other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioner sisters and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I've been following the Elite NP Facebook group and the messages and just some of the issues that NPs have been coming across. So that's been really helpful in just learning and watching how they've pivoted or what they're doing to address it.
Yep. So just pivot. That's all you can do. I mean, a business is never a stagnant thing, right? You always have to be willing to change. You always have to be willing to pivot. You always have to be willing to do whatever you got to do to stay running, because, the environment changes. And so a business is a very dynamic thing. Where business owners fail is when they start getting stuck in their ways and they don't want to change. And then that's when their business kind of just stagnates or starts decreasing. So just,
Right.
keep that in the back of your head.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in terms of your website goes, I'm taking a look at it. I mean, it's a real simple website. I mean, it's just kind of straight to the point. The very first thing you say here is modernized beauty and wellness with mobile medicine. I don't know what the hell that means. Like, if I'm someone who lands on this, I'm like, okay, what's that? And I look down at your mission. We provide personalized infusion and injection therapies. Okay, but I still have to read 2 or 3 sentences to get there. I'm in a rush. I'm on my phone. I'm at a traffic light. I don't got time I don't got time for that.
Okay.
So the very, very, very first thing on your website should be modernized beauty and wellness with personalized IV infusion and vitamin injections. Mobile medicine doesn't mean shit. I don't know what that means. It can mean all kinds of different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just boom. I mean, that's what I tell people all the time. Right from the get-go, the very, very first thing a customer should see when they land on your website is what you do. The very first thing. They are going to land on your website and you have 3 to 6 seconds to capture their attention.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. And with that said, looking at the rest of your website, with that said, just keep that in your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just make it very, very apparent what it is that you do. You have your mission statement, your team, your services listed, under about this, about your clinic name. And then underneath that, it says services provided. Booking an appointment is easy. Move that section
Up.
above the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a simple website. It's straight to the point. I think that if you could probably go in here and play around with it to make it just a little bit more, I don't know, make it prettier, I suppose.
Okay.
It's a simple website. It's simple. I mean, it works, right? But like, you could probably just make it a little bit better. So my suggestion for you here would be to look at some other websites for some other clinics, in other areas, nowhere local. And kind of just look at their website and kind of just use it as more or less a template or a blueprint for yours.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, don't copy it, but just kind of just use it as a template. That's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's what I do for my men's health clinic years and years ago. Yeah. It's fine.
Okay. I will do
Yeah.
that.
So otherwise, your website's okay. I mean, when you start integrating weight loss and hormone replacement therapy into it and that sort of a thing, you're going to need to start, put that at the very top on the services provided, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, the first statement here, modernized beauty and wellness with mobile medicine, I would say probably something like, modern beauty and wellness, hyphen, a hormone replacement therapy, weight loss, and IV infusion injection clinic, something like that. Like I said, you want to make sure that it's apparent what you do right from the start.
Okay.
Yeah. So just always keep that in mind. Anytime that you are building anything on your website, any new pages that you put on here, because you only have 2 pages right now. You have your home page and a FAQ, right? Frequently asked questions. So you'll have to start building out different pages on here, one for HRT, one for weight loss, one for IV infusion, one for vitamin injections, right? So you should have 4 other pages. On each
Okay.
one of those pages, your goal right from the start is to say exactly what it is. Just keep that in mind.
Yes, I'm taking notes right now.
Yeah. But otherwise, like I said, it's a super simple website. It just needs to be, flushed out and just worked on a little bit. So no big deal. It's working. You have patience. So just imagine how much better it's going to work when you start doing, you do a couple other things with it.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the same thing with your Google business listing.
Oh, yes.
The name,
Yes.
the name of your business, hyphen, colon, your services.
Okay.
Like, that should be the name of your business on your Google business listing.
Yes, that's one thing that I plan on working is like I've taken away is your Google reviews.
Yes.
And just getting people to go in, review them, stack them up. So,
Absolutely important. As many as you can possibly get on there.
well, and so this kind of leads me into my next question is just in how to structure my PLLC with DBAs. So, do I need to have a DBA for weight loss, another one for HRT, another one for IV
No,
infusions?
nah, nah, I
Okay.
don't think I don't, if you're going to be the only show in town, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really only necessary if you were in a really competitive market.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think that's really, I mean, if you're the only show in town, I don't think having a Google business listing for every single service you have, having a DBA, I don't really think that's necessary. The case for that would be, let's say someone in, a big city like Phoenix or Houston or something, they have an IV infusion clinic. Now they want to integrate men's health into it. Well, in that case, then yeah, it probably would be a good idea to create a DBA and kind of make like a, shadow business, so to speak, for the men's health. And then create a separate Google business listing, separate website, whatever, and have it be a DBA underneath your LLC. In that case, yeah, I could see that being beneficial. But if you're gonna be the only show in town, I wouldn't even waste your time.
Okay.
I think you mentioned something before we got started about LLC versus PLLC or how to structure something. I don't remember what the exact question was.
That was it. Just trying to
Okay.
figure out if I needed to stack DBAs underneath my PLLC.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. Do you have to have a PLLC in Utah?
No, I didn't really know the difference, and so I just chose it because it's an option. Do you have any thoughts on adding that?
Um, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's probably better to use an LLC because you don't have to put your name on it. Does your PLLC have your name on it?
No.
No, it's just whatever the name of your practice is, PLLC, it's it.
Yeah.
Oh, well then, nah, just keep it. It's already built. You already got a bank account and stuff. Just go ahead and just keep using it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a lot of states, the PLLC has to have like the name of the provider or the professional in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in those cases, I would highly advise trying to, use an LLC instead if you can. But in your case, sounds like it's probably not really necessary. Just use what you got. What entity you have. I mean, here's an exercise for you. Does the type of entity you have, does that generate income for you? An LLC, a PLLC, a C corporation, an S corporation. The type of legal entity that your business is structured under, does that affect your income?
No.
Correct. Who cares?
Perfect.
Right. Like that's the kind of mindset you need to build as an entrepreneur. Like so many people get hung up on these stupid little details that it doesn't matter, right? Like who cares? Your goal as a business owner is to generate revenue.
Yes.
That's it. That's your goal. Nothing else matters, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. So little tiny nitpicky things doesn't really matter. So just, kind of always keep it, just keep it in the back of your head. Like I've told people before, like with my men's health clinic, for example, um, 5 or 6 years ago when I started in 2018, 2019, kind of around that time period. And I had a Google or a Word document on my desktop, and it was called Men's Health Clinic To-Do List. And anytime something came up into my mind about things that I needed to do, I would write it down on there. So I built this to-do list of things that I needed to do, right? So I got the thing started. I was seeing patients, making money, prescribing testosterone, et cetera. Then I had this to-do list. And so whenever I get a little free time, I would knock out stuff on the to-do list. Um, I completely forgot about that to-do list. And I don't know when it was, 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever. I was on my desktop kind of cleaning up stuff and I saw that and I opened it up. And there were still like 20 things in that doc of things I needed to do that I still haven't done. And guess what? I just deleted it. Who cares? The business doesn't make any money. I don't give two shits about all that stuff that was to-do list. I don't care. Stuff that wasn't important, right? But I
Right.
but I didn't know any better. So now I do, right? So just focus on income generating activities. If you focus on income generating activities in your business, it truly makes your business pretty simple because that's your goal. So
Exactly.
yeah. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I did have just, I think the last thing that I had was, what are your top three suggestions for me in regards to scaling my business in preparation to sell, even from right now in these early stages? Or is there anything I really can do in the moment and something I just need to kind of be putting off into the future?
Well, the biggest thing, I mean, there's a few considerations here if you want to build a business to sell. Um, Number one is your priority should be to get yourself out of the business as much as possible. Um, Very few buyers will want to buy a business that is 100% tied to the business owner. Like, if the business owner died in a car wreck 2 months after close of the business, and the business is 100% reliant on that business owner, the person who bought it now is fucked. Like,
Right.
what are we supposed to do? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge risk for a buyer of a business. So your goal is to get yourself out of the business as much as possible. And that's mostly going to be the day-to-day work. I mean, you as a business owner, you still obviously have some responsibilities on the back end, finances and paying bills and things like that. But your goal is to get yourself out of the business as much as possible. Okay, so that's goal number one. Um, with you getting your NP degree and seeing patients and stuff, a year and a half late, a year and a half from now, this is something that I wouldn't really worry about in the near future, the next 3 to 4 years. Like, your goal right now is just to get this business up and running and grow it to a point where it's, very profitable. 2 or 3 years from now, you can start hiring, other nurse practitioners to see patients for you, hire another RN to do the IV infusions for you, et cetera, so you can get yourself out of the business. But, short to medium term here, next 3 or 4 years, I don't think I would worry too much about that. Okay. But keep it in the back
Okay.
of your head. All right.
Okay.
Um, Another thing is recurrent income. You really need to have some sort of recurrent income. Buyers like to see subscription-based income, recurrent income, and repeat customers. The problem with the IV infusion is a lot of the times it's just a one and done kind of a thing, right? Like, they get
Mm-hmm.
their IV infusion because they're hungover and, you know, you don't see them
Yep.
again for 8 months, right?
Yep.
That's something that's not very appealing to a buyer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, the biggest thing is, what is your net income? Um, that's going to be the biggest determining factor of the value of your business. Uh, I've talked to NPs before. Um, I sell practices on the side, just a little side hustle of mine, just, sell broker practices. And I'll have NPs reach out to me and they'll say, "Hey, I want to sell my business. Okay. What's your revenue?" And they'll say, $1 million. Okay, is that your gross revenue? Yeah, it's your gross revenue. I was like, I don't give two shits about your gross revenue. Like, your gross revenue means absolutely nothing. What's your net income? What's your actual profit? And they'll say $100,000. And I'll tell them, your business is not ready to sell. That's not an attractive business to someone. So at the end of the day, it comes down to your profit, your net income. So if you want to build a business that you can sell later on, you need to focus on that net income. How do you make it as profitable as possible? That net income is what matters. Your gross makes no difference. No one cares. You have a business that generates $100 million a year gross revenue, and if your net income is only $1 million, that's really not that valuable of a business because it has so much overhead.
Right.
So keep your business as lean as possible. Keep your expenses as low as possible to keep that net income high. So at the end of the day, you should try to strive to have a margin in your business of about 40%. So that means for every $1,000 that you make, $400 of it is profit. That's a 40% margin. That's your goal.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing about these cash-based practices is that if you do it right and you keep your business lean, you should have a profit margin of anywhere between 30 to 50%.
Okay.
If you do not, you are doing something wrong. You're either not charging enough for your services, you have high patient turnover, you are spending too much money on an unnecessary expense. Like there's some reason why your profit's not very high. There's a money leak, so to speak. So
Okay.
yeah. So those are those are the three things that you need to kind of keep in mind if you want to sell your business later on. But to be honest with you, that's going to be 5 years plus down the road for you.
Yeah. No, it's definitely going to be far out because I know that you've even said in your podcast before, 3 to 5 years at least for once, actual MPs start their business. So it's definitely in the future, but something on my forefront.
Yeah. And most people start a business never with an exit plan or an exit strategy. Like that doesn't even cross their mind. So with you thinking about this now is a positive sign. Okay. You have an exit strategy in the back of your mind for 5 to 7 years down the road. Okay. So you have some sort of exit strategy. You have a goal 5 to 7 years from now to sell the business. So that's a good. Most people don't have that. So keep
No,
that
I
in the back of
can't
your head.
retire early if I
Right.
don't have an exit plan.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the exit strategy, right? Is to retire early, and before you sell the business, try to live frugally. This is
hmm
something that a lot of people don't do. Um, by the time you sell your business, you should already have a very healthy nest egg already. And a lot of people, by the time they sell their business, don't have shit. And it's like, how are you making $700,000 a year profit, yet you have nothing invested and really no significant savings? What have you been doing with your money, right? They just buy a
Yeah.
bunch of bullshit, go on stupid vacations all the time. They just blow it, right?
hmm
So your goal over the next 5 to 7 years before you sell the business is to maintain your current standard of living, okay? You don't need to be, you don't need to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. You don't maintain your same standard of living that you have now. Sure, spoil yourself with a few things. I mean, you work hard. If you want to buy that new Range Rover or whatever, buy the Range Rover. But don't go crazy with it. You don't need to go buy a $1.5 million house, right? You don't need to take out all this debt. You don't need to just blow your money on a bunch of nonsense. So your goal over the next 5 to 7 years is to try to save and invest as much of that profit as you possibly can. So that way, by the time you sell the business 7 years from now, you'll be 42 years old. By the time you sell the business in 7 years, you should have $1 million saved in your brokerage account, invested in, bonds in the stock market or something, if you do it right. So that's your goal. The only way you do that, though, is you got to live underneath your means. You got to live below your means.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was making, at a time there, I was making a very healthy 7-figure income a year. And I would say I was able to save 80% of that year after year. I
Wow.
still lived in my little 1,800 square foot house. I still drove my 1,500 Sierra. I still, I mean, I had socks that had holes in them still. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I lived
Yeah.
below my means. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah. And I
Yeah.
was able to save a lot of money. So yeah, it's definitely worth the sacrifice. Just kind of keep that in mind too.
100%.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
No, I think that was everything.
Yeah, cool. That was an awesome episode. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. So, all right, well, I'd like to end the episode with you asking me a question. Do you have a personal question or a curiosity for me?
I do. And I've two, if that's okay. But the
That's
first one
fine.
is, if you were in my shoes, what would you be doing differently right now with this plan?
If I was in your shoes, what would I be doing differently? Um, I think, well, obviously change that NP degree from acute to family, right? I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, definitely be doing that. But I think what I would be doing from more of a personal perspective is try to find a little bit more balance in your life. Working 5 shifts a week, working on this side business, going to NP school, you're going to miss out on a lot of moments with your child and your husband and just life in general. You're going to miss out on a lot of things and you can never get those things back. You only have the present moment. That's all you got. And it's one of the only things you really truly have in this life. The only thing you truly have is right now. Because you don't know what's going to happen 3 days from now. And you sure as shit can't get anything back from the past, right? And
Right.
so 4 or 5 years down the road, yeah, you might have $1 million business, but what did you sacrifice for that? Did you miss your son, your kid? Did you miss their first steps? Did you miss their first words? Did you miss these things that you'll remember forever? So that'd be a piece of
Yeah.
advice for you. Try to find a little more balance.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Try to find a little more
Nope.
balance. I mean, you got to hustle, you got to work your ass off. I get it. But if I could do things over again, I think I probably would have put the brakes on it just a little bit.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
perfect. It's helpful to hear it from someone else and not just
Yeah.
myself telling it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. And then the second question I have is, what is a failure or a setback that ultimately led to one of your biggest successes?
Mm. I would say, I would say the pivotal moment for me that truly led to, I guess if you want to say my financial success, my business success, was the failure of my first marriage.
Mm.
And by that, I mean, I liked her. We were friends. I wasn't very romantically interested in her. Um, just one of those things where we got married young, and you know, when you're in your mid 20s, you kind of just do stupid shit. And when I divorced her in late 2018, early 2019, I just got started in my entrepreneurial journey, really. I just started my medical cannabis clinic was kind of just there making some money. My men's health clinic, I just started it, and that was kind of it. Um, and her anxiety and her stress and her need for constant validation and me being around, she was very um attached, I guess. Um and because of those things, it really held me back. And I realized that too. It's one of the reasons why I divorced her. Her constant anxiety and stress and, her being overly dependent on me was significantly holding me back for what I wanted to do. And at the end of the day, I kind of just didn't really love her anymore. And so I divorced her. And when I divorced her, so this is the failure, right? It was the failure of my first marriage. Um, that divorce kicked something into my mind, like it was a switch, and it was just like, okay, dude, it's fucking hustle time. Like, let's go. Because I had to make up for that lost salary, right? I mean, she was making like $150,000 a year, and so when she left, it was a big hit, right, financially. And so I was like, I need to make up for that. And so over the next 2 years, that switch was on, and that's when I launched almost everything, including the Elite NP. So if I never would have divorced her, Elite MP probably never would have existed. And if Elite MP never would have existed, how many hundreds and thousands of NPs out there wouldn't have started a practice and set their family's trajectory on a completely different path, right? So
Yeah.
that failure led to tremendous success, not for me, but for also a lot of other people, including you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's crazy how one little event can completely change the trajectory of your life and honestly the lives of other people. So
Exactly. But I feel like that also is very empowering to, I'm sure, many people listening to this. So,
yeah, it sucked. Divorce sucks. Like divorce is tough. That's a very rough time, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, it was worth it, right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. We're both probably happier people at this point, So
That's always a good thing.
yeah, yeah. So good question. Yeah. All right, well, cool, Alex. Well, listen, this was a very good episode. We talked about a lot of really good stuff here. So I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I definitely will be shooting you an email for follow-up
No,
after all
sounds
this.
good. Oh, absolutely. I would love to follow up with you in 6 months or even a year from now to kind of see where you're at. So just, you got my email, so let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, bye.
Bye.
All right. This was a very good episode with Alex. We talked about quite a few things. We really talked about some high level, business scaling, entrepreneurial topics. And so, yeah, if you're starting a business, I would re-listen to this episode multiple times. There's a lot of really good nuggets in here. But I think one of the big things here to walk away with is, use what you got here. I mean, she's just an RN, and she's not scared of taking a little bit of a risk and scaling a business and growing a business before she even, finishes her NP degree, right? And so if you're an RN listening to this, you can go ahead and get started, right? There's always a way, basically. Like, I think that's going to be really the big point of this. There's always going to be a way to start a business and grow that business if you truly want to grow and scale it, okay? So she's doing what she needs to do to grow it. She's going to hire, a provider, use her medical director that she has to create these protocols and prescribe meds and stuff. And she's going back to NP school, for goodness sake, to, eventually be able to do it herself. So she's taking all the steps and making all the sacrifices to get it done. All right. Hope everyone enjoys this episode. Talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and/or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcasts. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2023 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.